Let's talk about the top 5 decks of the Festival Collection meta. But before we get into them, I want to briefly mention Ebisu. Ebisu is probably the best deck in JP right now, but because this deck will most likely never release in English, I don't want to take too long explaining how this deck works. So just note that the top 5 decks you're about to see will not include this deck. If you really want, you can view this list as the 6th to 2nd best decks. And I also made some adjustments for what I think the English meta without Ebisu would look like. Alright, now let's actually get started. At number 5, I have Eva. While this deck got some good generic support in set 10, I think the decks above it have a better time fighting each other. The choice restriction on Eva and Combined Rusher did hurt this deck as it is lacking the early game aggression it once had access to. At its spot, we're now running Sickle Blade of Investigation, Habitable Zone. Auto, when this card is discarded from hand during a ride phase, cost Soul Blast 1 and put this card on the bottom of the deck, and draw a card. Auto, when this unit is placed on Rearguard Circle, if you Persona roll during its turn, cost CB1, search your deck for up to one set order card, review it and put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. Until end of turn, you can play a total of up to 2 orders, and the next set order you play can be played without paying its cost. The cycle effect is really nice, helping us dig for orders or Obsidites, but that's not the only reason we're running this card. The second effect is also nice, helping us get down 2 orders in the same turn, making our Eva search more powerful. And here's a simple deck list. Nothing else really changed. The 8 Obsidites is still important so that we don't run out of gas against stronger decks. And we're moving on to number 4. We have Messiah. If you want a more in-depth deck analysis, I suggest checking out my video when the deck first released. Everything I talked about in that video holds true, but to give a brief summary, the early game of this deck is quite weak, so you really have to have good threat assessment. To help with this issue, I'm running Flattened Freeze in the deck to clear problematic cards. Once we get to stride and accumulate enough value through Alter Ego Messiah, it is easier for us to maintain the advantage we generated. And here's a simple deck list. After playing a lot of games with this deck, I don't like Mikani as the timing it is good in is very limited. I'm not showing the G zone on screen, but obviously it's just 4 of each available G unit. Coming at number 3, we have Willista. This deck got a huge upgrade in the Festival Collection. Even the Rhyline Grade 3 is different, so let's go over the new cards. I want to start by talking about the order Crossing Illumerace. Continuous, during this fight, this card is also regarded as True Hearted Ruby and Everlasting Sapphire. Play this if you have a Vanguard with Willista in its card name. Put this card into Soul, draw a card. Choose one of your Vanguards, and until end of turn, it gets power plus 5k, and if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, it gets Auto Vanguard Circle when this unit attacks, cost CB1 and Soul Blast 1 grade 3 card with Willista in its card name, choose one of your rear guards and stand it. You cannot play orders this turn. This card solves a lot of issues about the deck, as a lot of the previous used cards rely on having used both the gems to get the full effect, and that requires jumping through a lot of hoops, and the payoff just wasn't really worth it. For example, Ophelia is a great card if we can use both gems, being a 20k attacker as well as a restander. But now with this order, we get both of these effects with ease. Let's assume we're on grade 2 and we have an Elite Yura on the board. That's draw 3, and it's only turn 2. This card allows us to be extremely explosive from the start. Let's now talk about the new Willista form, Fasten Magica Willista. During this fight, this card is also regarded as Prismagica Willista. Auto, when this unit is placed on Vanguard Circle, cost, discard a card from hand, choose a gem card from your soul or drop and put it into your hand. Act from Vanguard Circle, once returned, cost, Soul Blast 1 gem card, and perform all of the following according to the card name of the card Soul Blasted for this cost. Everlasting Sapphire, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 2 unit cards from among them and count up to Rearguard Circle, shuffle your deck. True Hearted Ruby, this unit gets power plus 15k until end of turn. Although this card requires a gem to function, it's actually not that hard to maintain one, as the Rhyline searches for one already, and with the first skill on this card, we can always get it back from the soul. The next new card is Full Marks for Exhilarating Energy, Trixie. Continuous on the Rearguard Circle, if you played a gem ordered this turn, and your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, this unit gets power plus 5k. Auto, when this unit is placed on a Rearguard Circle, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Willista in its card name, cost, put a card from hand into Soul. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck and choose up to 2 grade 3 cards with Willista and their different original card names, reveal them and put them into your hand and shuffle your deck. If you did not reveal any cards, draw a card. While in my current build I don't run the original Willista, the finding a Persona Ride part is still nice and also allows us to put a gem card into the soul. The last new card is What Color is Your Wish, Wishbunk. Auto, when this card is discarded from hand during your ride phase, cost, Soul Blast 1, and put this card on the bottom of the deck and draw a card. Auto, when this unit is placed in Rigor Circle, if you Persona roll this turn, cost CB1, choose one of your vanguards, and until end of turn, it gets continuous Vanguard Circle, all of your front row units get power plus 5k. This is just another one of the cycle cards. It allows us to get to our pieces faster, and that's about it. The bonus mini Persona Riot effect can sometimes come in handy as well. And here's the simple deck list. Most of the cards you see I have already talked about, with the exceptions being the broken Yuika that is included in almost every lyrical deck, as well as a 20k attacker if we had played both gems. You might have noticed that the Overtrigger looks a little different. That's because this festival collection also gave us 2 brand new Cray Elemental Overtriggers that can fit into every deck. Let's take a look first at the one I run in this deck, Spiritual King of Hydrosphere, Elasphero. The additional effect is choose a card from your drop, put it into your hand, choose one of your units, and it gets critical +1 until end of turn. The effect on this is pretty simple. It acts like a 9th crit for the deck, as well as allowing us to get back any card in the drop zone. Compared to a lot of other OTs, it is a lot less explosive but more consistent, as there is less chance for this card to be bad when triggering its additional effect. Feel free, however, to still try out the lyrical OT, as we are pretty consistently calling units to the macro such as Yuika and Elvira. Now moving on to the second best deck in my opinion, we have Chronojet. This set also introduced a cycle of generic cards, with the Dark States one being Casualty Dragon, Crucial Dragon. Continuous Rigor Circle or Guardian Circle, if your opponent's drive check or damage check reveals a trigger unit this turn, this unit gets power plus 10k and shield plus 10k. Auto Rigor Circle once per turn, when this unit attacks a vanguard while not boosted, cost, put another rearguard in the same column as this unit into soul, and perform all of the following. Choose one of your opponent's rearguards, retire it, and this unit gets power plus 5k until end of turn. Cost, remove an Overtrigger from drop, and your opponent cannot call grade 1 or greater cards from hand to Guardian Circle until end of that battle. This card has so much going for it, and I think it will most likely find a home in Chronojet, as every effect benefits the deck in some way. The second skill allows us to add a retire effect to a deck that previously didn't have much access to. While Chronojet does send a unit to the bottom deck, it costs 1 CB and it is once per turn. Additionally, it gives us soul in a deck that recently lost access to Storer if we choose to run GG, which provides us with card draw later on in the game, thanks to this skill. So let's look at what a Chronojet deck may look like post-Festival Collection. Most of the deck remains pretty similar. Rather than Gungrim or Swirler, we're relying heavily on Zargon to do the soul charging for us, as well as the new addition of the grade 3. We're running a pretty heavy grade 3 lineup, but we can always turn one on the field to the grade 0 to search for either GG or Sargon. Let's talk about the other new OT you saw in this deck list, Spiritual King of Ignition, Velnot. The additional effect is choose one of your standing rearguards and it gets auto Rigor Circle once per turn. At the end of the battle, this unit attack, stand this unit until end of turn. If you did not choose a card, draw a card. Choose up to 1 unit card from your hand and call it to Rigor Circle. This card is very relatable to Oberia, where we can technically get 2 1 million power swings off, but we don't have to apply the standing effect to the one we gave 100 million to. This card though has a bonus effect, where if we do flip it in the early game, we're still getting an extra draw out of it. So it never feels bad to flip this card. One thing to note about this card is that you must select the standing rearguard if you have one, which means you have to be careful to not just have back or rearguard standing. If I had to rate these new Overtriggers, I think they are better than all of the situational ones, which means in most cases, I'll choose to run one of these Cray Elemental over the Dark States and Cater Sanctuary Overtriggers. While it is nice to flip Galmage Held early in a Martanoa when we have multiple grade 3 rearguards, it really sucks when the additional effect don't have an effect on the current game state. So opting for one of these is always going to be useful to some extent. OTs feel better overall. Alright, now we're finally moving on to the number 1 deck, and that is none other than Gendiva. Once again, I have made a video on Gendiva already, so go check that out if you want a more in-depth analysis. One thing has changed though, Barnea is not that great as it turns out, and we rather run cards that can make more of an immediate impact, such as the Cycle card and Best Harvest. And here's the updated sample deck list. Not much has changed, and I honestly still prefer the Gendiva right line over the Sargo right line, as forcing our opponents to call additional units down that we can later retire goes towards our game plan. Those are the top 5 decks of the Festival Collection meta in my opinion. This is definitely the best Festival Collection Bushiroad released since the start of the Overdress series, with tons of great reprints and a lot of impactful new cards. I like that instead of a dedicated Lyrical Monasterio set, we're getting upgrades for old decks this way. If you guys want me to make deck analysis videos on those decks, please let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you all next time.